Eclipses are great occasions for both astronomers and the public to have a good time on the rooftop, treating themselves to some wonder in the sky that doesn't happen every day. Eclipses are also occasions when it is easiest for a rogue object on a trajectory toward the Earth to reveal itself. What's up guys, this is JT at Xsign. I hope you guys do remember the Great American Eclipse on the 21st of August 2017. Now, in case you have already forgotten, it was a total solar eclipse visible in the band spanning from the east coast to the west coast of America. It was even partly visible from as far as Europe and Africa, as well as the far east of Asia. Now what makes the eclipse so special is not only its degrees of totality and span, but also other things that were made visible because of its happening. You see, during the day, the sunlight blocks out everything that is supposed to be visible, and as night comes, our path of the earth faces another direction. Therefore, there are a lot of things that we are missing out up there. So a solar eclipse creates the perfect conditions for sky watching, because it blocks out the suns and reveals other celestial bodies. And indeed, during the Great American Eclipse, Mars, Mercury, Venus, and Jupiter were all visible in the sky. The star system Regulus was also revealed. Now for your information, Regulus is the brightest star system of the constellation Leo. But that is not all. Something else also made its grand appearance, and we know for certain it is not any of the celestial bodies mentioned above. Why? Well, take a look at this photo here, taken in Idaho. As you can see, there is a cosmic object at this direction of 5 o'clock. It is not any of the planets we mentioned above, because Regulus was visible to the right of the sun. Mars and Venus were on the upper right corner, while Jupiter and Mercury was on the upper left. Well, of course, you can argue that this can be any celestial body out there or even a lens flare, which is unlikely though, because this photo was taken in area of totality with an X-clip filter with X-clip glasses with ISO system of 1600. So that leaves us with the other arguments, that this can be any cosmic entity. But then, take a look at this photo. This was taken from Italy, and the planets or whatever it is appeared much bigger and more visible. We know it is the same object because it is at the exact same locations, and the photo you see actually have been super enhanced, so you can see the dim light that this round system of planets radiates. And it makes perfect sense because the light is crimson red, and according to an insider who used to work with the Hubble telescope, the approaching system of planet is made up of a lot of iron oxide, and therefore if we can see it, it is going to be red. Now I'm not going to talk too much about Hubble Insider here because we have extracted one of the interviews in an audio you can find later. Now I'm just going to show you guys some other footage and photos from the eclipse that I think are incredible and are very concrete evidence that the road system of planet X is on its trajectory toward the Earth and is really very close. Now, these zoom-in ones were taken from Anchorage, Alaska. Next is the video clips caught in the city of Panama, Florida. Now as you can see, this time here there is an object on the other side of the sun, symmetric with the object that was supposed to be planet X at the directions of 5 o'clock. At first, it was unclear what this was. It could very well be a lens flare or a sun-dog phenomenon, but after some analysis with clarity enhancements and saturation adjustment, it is revealed to be another source of light. Reasonable that because of the angle and light, the camera somehow captures the reflection of mirror. Of course, I'm not a light physicist, so I can't explain that in detail, but I just know that such illusions or reflections is possible. Another explanation that sounds a bit more dire is that there is more than one celestial bodies up there interacting with our solar system. In these situations, it is unknown what the indication might be for us here on Earth, or when we may feel the effect. So a good advice is keep looking to the sky for any anomalies. Okay, next I want to show you guys this photo. This is a chart made by an astrophysicist from Kyoto, Japan. He has actually done a considerable amount of investigations into pulsar and wobble and things like that, and he actually calculated and pinpointed the positions of planet X based on the footage captured on the solar eclipse. So here how he calculated it. First, take a central spot on the Sun and extend the line down to planet X. Now before we continue, just for your information, the distance from Earth to the Sun is called 1 astronomical unit, or 1 AU for short. Planet X turned out to be 0.84 units from the Earth. To put that into perspective, Venus is 0.72 AU from the Sun, or equivalently 2.28 AU from our Earth. From here, take the down distance from the center point of the Sun, which is 1.04 AU, and multiply that by the distance from Earth to Venus. That would then give us a fair equation, which places planet X roughly 440,000 kilometers below the ecliptic plane. The next step we need to do is to take the diameter of the Sun, which is 1,391,000. Times that by the distance to the right of the Sun in addition to the distance between the Earth and the Venus, and the result is 340,000 kilometers to the right of the Sun. Okay, summing up, the system of planet X is 340,000 kilometers to the right of the Sun and 440,000 kilometers below the ecliptic. Oh, and by the way, quick explanation. The ecliptic is the plane where the planets of our solar system orbit the Sun. It is basically like a flat stick on which the planets rotate. The system of Nibiru is rising up to the plane. Well, it's hard to say rise or fall in space, but what I mean when I say it is rising to the ecliptic is that it approaches Earth from the direction that we here on the Earth call the south. That is why it is more easily spotted from the southern hemisphere. In fact, a lot of space observatory in the southern hemisphere as well as in Antarctica is rumored to have the main purpose of keeping a lookout on planet X. And yes, you have heard that right. Unless you are a newcomer to this issue, you probably have already known that NASA and the authorities have known about the existence and the approachings of planet X since at least 1983. And of course, they have been keeping the public in the dark because the knowledge of an imminent doom which would lead to social and economic breakdown. One of the most obvious effects of gravity from other planets or celestial bodies is the tides of our oceans. And you see this effect clearly from the historical retreating of the waters along the coast of South America on the side of the Atlantic Ocean in Brazil and Uruguay, and simultaneously the crossing of waters into the shores along the Pacific coast of Chile and the other western edge of the continent. Another side of the incoming of gravity is the increase in the wobble of the Earth, also known as the tilt in the Earth's rotating axis. This have clearly been observed by farmers around the world as well as the areas in the far North Polar region, from where the change in the sun's and moon's position can be seen most clearly. In fact, you can find one of the old interviews with the Northern Indians in our previous video on the topic of Earth wobble. So do that when you have the free time, and I'm not going to be too lengthy on that here. In the meantime, extreme climate activities are engulfing the planet. What we can see most obviously at this moment is the global heat wave, which is shattering temperatures recorded on every continent. 48 degrees in Europe and over 50 degrees in North America. Africa and Asia is setting uncontrollable wildfire across the land, with hundreds burning in Europe and even inside the Arctic Circle. And the biggest one was in Athens, Greece, and it killed almost 100 people. In Japan, 22,000 people have been sent to the hospital because of a heat stroke, and what is worth noticing about the case of Japan is that only a week or two before the heat wave, the country has experienced one of the worst floods in its history, killing more than 200 people and making thousands have to evacuate. From inside the Earth, the core is also being stirred up as seismic and volcanic activities rise steadily. 40 volcanoes are aggressively active and almost every single one in the rings of fire is showing signs of coming back to life, including the infamous Yellowstone supervolcano, which could potentially kill almost 100,000 people immediately and make 7 million square miles of American land instantly inhabitable. Too much volcanic eruption can also cover the planet in the layer of ashes and sulfur, bringing with it a nuclear winter as well as a downpour of acid rain. The majority of life on Earth and human civilizations might disappear even before the system of Planet X arrive. This is a legitimate threat because volcanic eruptions caused one out of the 6 mass extinctions in the Earth's history, as well as contributed a great deal of destructive forces in another one, the famous KPG extinction that wiped out the non-avian dinosaur. To sum up what I've been trying to say, the Nibiru-Apocalypse will start long before the Planet X is here. In fact, it might have already started. These are only a few examples of how the Earth and the solar system have been acting strangely as a giant cosmic object comes into contact with them. Now, with the footage from the Great American Eclipse, there is even a possibility that not one but 2 systems of Planet X are on their way to our planet. And like I have said before, the future seems dire, and we have no concrete idea of anticipating the consequences. We just know that the Nibiru-Apocalypse will come, and it is not so far away anymore. The elites are already rumored to be secretly preparing for disaster, and I doubt they would have planned for you and me. That's all for now, guys. Keep looking to the sky, and if you notice any sign from winged globe to second sun or strange terrestrial phenomena, please send them to us, because that could be valuable insight to how and when Judgment Day strikes, and improve all our chances to survive the end of the world.
Guest to the show. We're going to have live views again. We've got I have just heard that we have now lost Dubai. You saw Dubai get darker and darker, and that was just the sun setting. Here we are with the live views from the solar telescope just behind me. It's what SLU members are going to watch every single day from now on. And you can see there, the sun is on the left. You can see the small black dot, which is just to the right of center of the sun. That is the tiny orb of Mercury. Mercury, you now know so many interesting and fascinating facts from SLU astronomer Bob Berman. You'll be able to tell all your friends. Now, you may be asking yourself, what is that large round thing to the right of the sun? Well, that's our second sun. I don't know if you knew that we had a second sun, but there it is. It's normally hidden from view. NASA and other organizations, they usually hide that stuff away from us. They don't tell us the truth. But
What's up, guys? It's JT here at X Science, and the video clip I have just shown you is just another concrete solid evidence that something big is coming to us in the sky, and it will look just like a second sun. And NASA is hiding everything from the public. Why am I so sure? Well, because the guy in the clip is astronomer Paul Cox. Who is Paul Cox, you ask? He is English, and he hosts many shows about astronomy, including practical astronomy with Paul Cox, and he manages most aspects of sleuth engineering. Sleuth is an international organization that runs several robotics telescopes in places with good seeing, such as the Canary Islands, and use them for live shows of events of public interest. All this to tell you that we have a valid and recognized astronomy admitting in public that another big terrestrial body is out there, heading our ways, and all the second sun sightings around the world are harbingers of Judgment Day. We were right all along, and NASA, ever since 1983, had been hiding everything from the public, just so the elites can keep the crowd under control and assure their group interest. Anyway, back to Mr. Cox now. After his very bold announcement, many news outlets tried to get the public to believe that he was joking. They call it a dry British humor done in a deadpan way with only 1 or 2 sentences. The explanation they gave was that the second sun Mr. Cox was pointing at was nothing more than a problem with the reflections of one of the telescopes at SLU during that event. Oh, for your information, that event was broadcast live and it was the chances of Mercury. Back to the debunk that everything was a joke. I want to show you this following footage and you can tell me whether or not it is one. There's no way he would make the same joke again. He just admitted that what appears was very possibly Nibiru, and he even added again that Sleuth does not censor such things out of the public's view like NASA does. Also, I have to add that Sleuth has a global network of observatories, and one of these observatories is located in Chile. If you have been following the topic of Planet X, you would have known that its system is located below the ecliptic planes and therefore, when it approaches, it is best seen from somewhere in the southern hemisphere. In other words, Sleuth is very well equipped to spot the inbound system of Planet X, and there is no humor here. There's no point to make the same jokes about NASA twice in one show in such a dry manner. It's as if the fact that NASA censors things is too normal for people in the fields like Peter Cox to know. Now you see, Paul Cox is not the only scientist to have talked about Planet X. In fact, since before modern time, astronomer has already calculated that something big is lurking in the darkness of space out there, causing the distorted orbit of the gas giant Uranus and Neptune. One of the most renowned astrophysicists of the last centuries also approved the existence of an incoming system of celestial bodies. I don't know if you have heard of Carlos Mundo Ferrada. He is very well known for having calculated correctly many natural events on Earth and in space. For example, in January 1939, he forecasted that there would be a disastrous earthquake in Chile on the 24th of January of that same year. And guess what happened? It did happen. A huge earthquake shook Chile for 18 seconds, killing 40,000 people. He successfully calculated many other terrestrial extreme events, but that's not all. He even forecast correctly that Halley Comet's orbit would alter. It would spend more time closer to the Sun in 1986. What's more terrifying that he said Nibiru is real. He calculated Hercules and he said it was coming. He first mentioned it in the 1940s, 40 decades before NASA's first ever announcement. Now you can watch this very interesting footage, which was an interview with him in his last years.
Cálculos y con todo, la órbita de este cometa planeta. Porque usted nos habla y nos dice que es cometa planeta porque su movimiento no es algo normal.
No,
Que tiene unas velocidades.
es un cometa planeta porque tiene órbita elíptica como cometa y porque tiene gran masa
Como planeta.
como planeta. Yo lo llamo entonces planeta cometa, o sea, un planeta con cola.
Explica Muñoz Ferrada que este gran astro que se acerca cargado de energía cósmica no cumple las leyes de la mecánica celeste establecidas. Posee una órbita elíptica y viaja entre nuestro Sol y un Sol negro que se encuentra a 32 billones de kilómetros.
Entonces aquí en este gráfico usted nos muestra, en el gráfico, ¿verdad?, de que en este lado está la Tierra, la órbita de nuestra Tierra alrededor del Sol.
Sí, señor.
Y que él penetra en la órbita terrestre, aquí, pasando muy cerca de nuestra Tierra. Entonces tarda
A
desde
14 millones de kilómetros.
14 millones de kilómetros. Entonces acá usted en su gráfico nos presenta lo que es la estrella muerta o el sol muerto. En ese sol muerto él gira.
Aquí a 92 kilómetros por segundo.
Entonces, además de esos 92 kilómetros por segundo, él tiene otra velocidad, que es la más aterradora, ¿verdad? Que es la que se mueve muy rápido.
Tres puntos triangulados de alta sismicidad que se aproximan. El norte de la costa del Mediterráneo. Francia y España. la costa sur del Pacífico, de Valparaíso a Arequipa, y Java, Sumatra y Borneo. 3 puntos. Estos puntos van a ser terremotos de carácter volcánico.
So to sum up the main points, Planet X is, according to Florida, a comet planet, so called because it has the mass of a planet but an orbit like a comet. This thing does not meet the celestial law that is known to man, and it will cross by the Earth so close that the naked eye can see it. Mr. Farada also calculated 3 major earthquake points when Hercules arrived, which are the northern area of the Mediterranean, the southern area of the Pacific, and Java, Sumatra. Note that Mr. Farada said it would be visible to the naked eyes, thus all our second sun sightings, even via telescope of sleuth. On April 22, 2016, the well-known Russian aerobatic team Russian Knights rehearses for May 9th Victory Parade, and they capture a very visible sense of the approaching Planet X. Just a bit more than 1 week after these sightings, the Norfolk Sky Team, which was facing southwest, captures again the system of Planet X, this time even with chases of debris fields of iron oxide surrounding it. You see, the amount of evidence as well as people in the fields who admit it is surprising abundant. I'm not going to show any more footage for today because you can go and find second sun footage as well as wind globes all over the place. Just keep a mindful eye because sometimes people can mistake a lens flare for a second sun, so again, make sure your source is credible. That's all for today, guys. These very bold statements and calculations by renowned scientists from different times should probably be convincing enough for you to be certain that the question is not whether there is, but when a system of rogue planets will come into contact with planet Earth. So again, I suggest that during your free time to do your research into the matter. Again, you can find the second suns and Planet X everywhere. You just have to make sure that your source is valid. Not long ago, planetary scientists from the California Institute of Technology made a startling announcement on an equally startling matter. They found something that could have explained a perplexing astronomical mystery, that is, our Sun has still 6 degrees to its equator. What's up, YouTube? It's JT at X Science again. This time, I'm bringing you another piece of information that has much to do with the mysterious Planet X, as well as some portraits of the recent change in the water circulation across the globe. Let's start by getting back to the announcement that I mentioned at the start of the video. According to the analysis of California Institute of Technology planetary scientists, a massive presence within our solar system has still the Sun as well as other planets. The planets in our solar system, including the Earth, orbit on a flat plane within a few degrees of one another, respective to the Sun, known as the ecliptic plane. With the tilt, however, the Sun is not aligned the way it should be on this plane. Why this change? The Sun is the most massive object with the most gravitational pull within not only our system, but also in a vast swath of space between our system and the closest neighbor, assuming there is nothing else in that space. This means there should be nothing big enough to affect the balance of the Sun. There are many theories on the cause of the tilting, including a suggestion of an imbalance in the mass of the Sun's core. But the theory that grabbed the most attention is that our Sun is orbited by an undiscovered massive planet that is more than 10 times the size of the Earth and has a precarious orbit called a retrograde movement. With this kind of orbit similar to that of a comet, depending on its position related to the Sun, that existence can create from little to a tremendous impact on our solar system. An astronomer named Percival Lowell actually predicted the existence of another planet beyond Neptune. According to his calculation, The only way for Neptune and Uranus to have their present orbits is the existence of another large planet out of sight in the far reaches of a solar system, with enough gravity to interfere with the two gas giants. Lowell also named the odd entity Planet X in 1906, and continues to pursue the elusive planet until his death in 1916. Then, in 1930s, astronomer Clyde Tombaugh announced the discoveries of Pluto at the Flagstaff, Arizona observatory. The planet was discovered in just about the precise location where Lowell calculations has determined Planet X to be, but it was too small to cause a disturbance in the orbits of Neptune, let alone Uranus, and in 2006 it was reclassified as a dwarf planet. Back to the present. The collections of evidence that a giant presence is waiting to be discovered in the cold darkness of space beyond Neptune is growing. Which evidence? The very abnormal changes whose number relentlessly increased in the recent years and still escalating. So what would happen as the unknown planet closes in? On one hand, we have the more normal possibilities, that is, natural events, that includes volcanoes and earthquakes, extreme weather, and unprecedented solar activities. On the other hand, we may face rare and unusual events that happen only once in thousands or millions of years. For example, a shift in the Earth's axis, a mass melting of polar cap, and last and most terrifying, a shift in the magnetic poles. Anything of these events would have overwhelming impact on the social, economic, and political structure of humanity, akin to what described as the apocalypse in many religions. Maybe it's time to start writing epic chronicles and bury them so that maybe one day in the far future, our succeeding generations can have some cool story from a mysterious ancient civilization. Enough with the unknown space. Now let's go over some recent events on Earth that was part of many changes happening in our time. First, let's have a look at this impressive footage from Brazil, where intense flash floods hit some areas, including Belo Horizonte, sweeping away dozens of vehicles. According to civil defense authorities, in the span of only 20 minutes, the region received half of its average historical monthly rain. Meanwhile, hailstorms are becoming more and more a frequent occurrence. Like torrents or inundating rains, they leave a part of destruction in their wakes, so the more frequent they become, the more serious of a threat they pose. On March 18th, a powerful hailstorm swept across several counties in Texas. These rare satellite images from the NOAA showed the extent of the haystack that was left behind by severe storm across this region. The two bands shown above present the amount of hay lying on the ground as observed from space. On the upper right is a sequence of haze occurs as indicated by the radars, while on the lower right are the tracks from stronger rotating storm. This photo from Twitter shows a large haze striking Texas cities of Carwell and Waco. This video compilation shows a time-lapse on the supercell that moved into the region, followed by the immense hailstorm that produced baseball-sized hail. As immense as the hail that fell in north-central Texas was, the hailstorm that struck in northern Alabama on March 19 was truly terrifying. It virtually destroyed everything in its path, with hail the size of softballs crashing down on cars and buildings, smashing through windows and causing ceilings to collapse.